Hi, this is Billie Beene here with another segment of Truth by Billie Beene. This is episode 365, today's date, August 13, 2022. New. In June, my old YouTube channel and my equipment went away. I have new equipment and a new YouTube channel. I have a subscribe button in the lower right corner of my screen. Thanks for like, subscribe, and share. Okay. So we'll be covering two presidents, and we look forward to soon there only being one of our choice, ETs in the British military. NATO plans to block Russian ships. Isn't that an act of war? Some of my sources are God in the Bible Patriot subscribers, Alexander Mercouris, A Christoferou, Military Summary, Scott Ritter, Dr. William Mount, Kim Clement, Smoothie 12X, that's Andre Martyanov, WION, Galactic Talks interview with Jessica Ariel, Morocco, Mary Greeley, and for sure, two interviews by Kerry, Cassidy, one with Fenn, and another one about two presidents and ShariRaye. So, some of my sources, in addition to this, is of course God and other sources. All right. So I'd like to welcome back all 50 states, including Alaska, Hawaii, and the First Nations, Cherokee, Navajo, Hopi, Chickasaw, Mohawk, Apache, First Nation, Pit River in California, Mohegans, Yakama Nation in Washington State, Potawatomi in the Midwest, Oklahoma, Ojibwe Nation in northern Minnesota, a proud people who want peace and justice, Choctaw, Abenaki Tribe, Cheyenne, Massanutten, Pequot, Blackfoot in Montana, Spokane, Coville, Powhatan, Seminoles in Florida, Red Crow Tribe in Kentucky, Salt River Tribe in Arizona, and to welcome back the nations of Canada, England, France, Ireland, Philippines, South Africa, Netherlands, Indonesia, Scotland, Germany, Switzerland, New Zealand, Maldives, Nepal, Norway, Australia, Chile, Thailand, Belgium, Mexico, Brazil, Russia, Panama, Guam, U.S. territory, Jamaica, an Icelander living in Spain and other people in Spain, Wales in the U.K., Sweden, Italy, Puerto Rico, a U.S. territory, Romania, Bermuda, Bahamas, British territories, Morocco, Argentina, Northern Marianas Island, a U.S. territory, Denmark, Bolivia, Uganda, Iceland, Serbia, Bulgaria, Mauritius, a small island nation off of Africa, and the newest, Ukraine, Czech Republic, Poland, Costa Rica, Malta, China, Hungary, Israel, and Finland. So let's get started. Okay, I have some Patriot subscribers who are talking about and I'd like to say thanks to the McCanns of Fulshire, Texas, and Diane Woods, who's also doing business as Incandescent Audio. Thanks for your support of my channel. Okay, I have a Patriot subscriber who says, I read an article a few years ago about what went on in Oklahoma City in 1995. It was a Black Ops CIA, and there was HRC information there, and a thermite bomb was used inside the building. Okay, and I have a Patriot subscriber in California who says, you won't believe it, illegals now coming over the border can get government jobs in California. Okay, Patriot subscriber from PPN, all the Japan government resigns. And I've seen that on other sources, so something's going on there. We're waiting patiently for Benjamin Fulford. He lives in Japan. He's been on vacation in Canada to get back to tell us what does all that mean. Patriot subscriber Washington, D.C. is empty. The IRS is out. They're not in their building. The FBI building's been boarded up for years. And they pretend to be, doing something. And they cannot print any more money. I have a Patriot subscriber who's talking about, Dabu77 put that information out also about the new job description for the IRS agents. Be willing to use deadly force against American citizens. Yeah, I put that out in one of my recent shorter videos. Okay, Patriot subscriber are saying, there's white hats in Australia and New Zealand working with the white hats there, and they're going in those deep underground areas and rescuing women and young humans. White hats plus the Galactic Federation of Worlds. I had one of my Patriot subscribers asked me about or mentioned my using the term young humans. It's because YouTube has algorithms for certain words. So, I have a Patriot subscriber. Thanks to all our brave military, a Patriot subscriber. The CCP is working with reptilians and the deep state. And in Taiwan, there's some type of buried tech. Okay. I have a Patriot subscriber. Canada government tells the Canadian farmers they can't sell food direct to people now. They have to go through the government. Okay, that's another deep state. It's my take on this. Another deep state attack on farmers across the world. Because we also saw, that those strong government action against farmers in Holland. Yeah. Okay, Kerry Cassidy is coming out with this, which is accurate information. So, we know that in that November 2020 event, that would have been President Trump, who actually won. But then we had the evil and corrupt Congress, and this is the U.S. method under our Constitution, that you can have the vote, but then Congress has to ratify the vote, and what they did, they illegally ratified it for who? A JB. And a lot of those people were arrested and went to Gitmo, and since that time, since January of 2021, we've had no functioning government, no Congress is meeting, Washington, D.C. is empty, no Supreme Court is meeting, no FBI building is boarded up, and all this other Capitol building, they're all empty, boarded up. Remember, the National Guard was there. All that stuff's been taken down. Okay, so what Kerry's bringing out is some good information. All right, let me get this out of the way. All right, so we have two presidents, and that's accurate. And there was a Kim Clement prophecy about this. Okay, one was elected, and one is regarded as the commander-in-chief by 70% of the U.S. military. So we have one that was put in illegally, and he has some regard by 30. Well, he's not the commander-in-chief of any percentage of the. There's 30% of the U.S. military, but they're under the control of the deep state, not the JB we see. Now, Kerry Cassidy is bringing out some information, and we wondered who was pulling the string. She's given us a name, Klaus Schwab. He's part of the deep state, part of the bloodlines. Okay, so we have deep state, and then above that, we have the bloodlines, and then we have the ETs, and then we have AI. So that's who's running some things. Now, she's bringing this out about JB, and this was news to me because I knew about the actors, but apparently there's also a clone of the real JB who was went to Gitmo and was executed in 2019. Crimes against humanity, treason, and other things. Okay, but there's been a clone, and his handler has been Jill Biden. She's part of the bloodline deep states. All right. So now what is happening is that, and so JB, the deep state is in control of 30% of the U.S. military and the government agencies. We saw that big to-do recently with the FBI raid on President Trump's home in Florida, and the IRS trying to arm up and train snipers, and the CIA involved. Yeah, they're all under the deep state. Okay. So now, the clone is fading, and that's why we've seen it said he had the COVID virus. So now what's going to happen? KM is not eligible. It's also an actor, not the real one. Nancy Pelosi's also an actor. The real one's in Greenland. Last I heard about the real it's KH, that she was in Gitmo, waiting for a trial. Also for treason. All right. So here's a tentative plan that Kerry Cassidy is explaining. All right, so to reinstate President Trump is, and to avoid civil war. I had the Patriot subscriber recently who said President Trump had been contacted with the Navy SEALs and said the FBI was going to come and raid, and the Navy SEALs were ready to repel the FBI, and President Trump declined, saying he didn't want bloodshed. Yeah, that's our president. So he wanted to avoid a civil war with the normies who get all their information from the mainstream media on TV and actually believe everything. But a lot of people, we understand now in the United States, it's like 80% of American citizens are, a lot of them are really awake, but a lot are beginning to wake up and say, hey, what's going on? Okay. Talking about the midterm, putting in a Republican Speaker of the House who then could take over for the Republican side, then pass it off to President Trump. And it would avoid a constitutional crisis and a civil war unless the deep state managed somehow to steal another election. And since there's so many American patriot citizens awake now, I would predict a full revolt at that point. I don't think the really? We just saw the CIA was trying to arm up and train 5,000 snipers, and said their new hires needed to be able to use deadly force to kill American citizens. I don't think the American people are going to sit still very much longer. I really don't. Okay. Now we'll talk about, we'll talk about Ukraine. Okay, part of the Alliance and the Galactic Federation of Worlds, and also the Galactic Confederation. We have off-world help. And of course, we have off-world help from God, who's in charge of everything. All right, so Ukraine is actually the headquarters for the deep state, and was the country through which their money was laundered, and other things. And they had those deep underground areas and biolabs and a bunch of stuff. All right, now, so it's necessary for President Putin, who's part of the alliance, to take Ukraine down. And more is going down now besides Ukraine, I believe. Now, let's talk about China and Taiwan. Okay, China, we have Chairman Xi, who's part of the alliance. We have the CCP. We have Taiwan. Oh, yeah, it's come out about that recent trip by the actor Nancy Pelosi. That was to have started a war, and the actor was going to get a lot of money. But of course, that failed because the American people are not going to put their sons and daughters out to go and defend what is perceived to be a part of China. So, but the CCP, Kerry Cassidy's bringing this out, the alliance does not want the CCP for sure to come into control of Taiwan, because in Taiwan, 90% of all chips are made that go in all products, including military and space. So, that's going on there. Now, so we can see plans are in the air for the putting away of two presidents and the bringing forth of the one who was elected. Okay, WION. This is like a mainstream media group out of India, but they put forth a lot of truth and they put their spin on it. Well, I can take the truth and put my own spin on it. Okay, but they're reporting this. Now, recently, here's Ukraine. Here is Crimea, that has been considered part of Russia since 2014. And my take on it, I stand alone. I've stood alone on independent assessments of other situations. I stand alone on this. The HIMARS that hit a Russian naval base, took out 20 of their planes, wounded 60 pilots, which is generally not being reported, came from these two locations, 270 kilometers and 220 kilometers. I submit, and that's what I put out, the HIMARS have been perfected, and that they weren't seen coming from these locations because the U.S. military has been able to get the frequency right so that it's vibrating at a level that's not going to be seen by humans, and it's not going to be detected on the typical instruments. So that's my take. Now, Russia had been saying that it was a Russian depot that was blown up, and there was one death and a few people injured. And okay, WION is saying that thousands are leaving Crimea, and they showed them. So thousands are leaving, and the were interviewing the people, and the people were talking about the explosions that they heard. Okay. And at the Saki Russian Air Force Base. And yeah, that's going on. And now they're trying to say, Ukraine is trying to say that it was sabotage by an inside group, inside a terrorist group inside Crimea called the Partisans. I submit to you it was British intel, target information, plus U.S. military launching and handling the HIMARS that caused the explosions, took out 20 Russian planes, and wounded 60 Russian pilots. So let's get on the same page. We'll have stories being put forth. Okay. Now, Kerry Cassidy also had an interview with Fenn. And he had been in the British military. I think that was in the 80s. And what he saw regularly were ETs, reptilians, fraternizing and being part of the British military officers. So I submit to you, this recent bragging by the British military inside Ukraine that they are doing the targeting, I think they're getting help from off-world, from the reptilians. So, I think that's going on. And Ian Flint, yeah, he had that interview with Kerry. Yep. So that's coming out. And I believe that these pieces of news don't come out, just come out. I think there's planned and... All right, now... A Christoferou, I'll draw you a map, because this is really bizarre. Okay. Now we heard here's Russia, here's Ukraine, and we come around like this, and we've got, this is Russia, and we've got Estonia, we've got Latvia, we've got Lithuania, we've got Kaliningrad. Now, Kaliningrad is an enclave of Russia. And recently, Lithuania said Russia couldn't ship by rail from here to go to Kaliningrad. So the plan was, Russia said, well, we'll come through, it's the Gulf of Finland. So it comes over like this, and we'll do it by ship. Now my take immediately, because I played this out in my mind, was, NATO is going to put ships here, take some kind of action against Russia's ships, and then, create a war situation. Well, okay, so now we have, in Estonia, let me draw a different map for you. We have, all right, this is Russia. We have Finland, Helsinki, over here in Estonia. We have Teflon. Okay, and what they're going to do between Helsinki and Teflon, they're going to blockade Russia's ships, and they're going to use missiles to do it. Now, type of missiles they're going to use is, let me get my information on that. Okay, so Finland is going to use MTO-85M missiles that can travel 100 kilometers or about 63 miles. And Estonia is going to buy from Israel Blue Spear missiles that can travel 300 kilometers or about 190 miles. And this distance is about 82 kilometers. Yeah, 82 kilometers or 51 miles. So we see NATO is setting up for a war scenario, aren't they? Even planning the type of missiles they're going to use against Russia. Now, I don't know where you're from, but where I'm from, I can imagine in my mind the strength and the number and the size of Russia's military, and especially their navy, against Finland, Estonia, and even a lot of NATO. I don't see that working out well. But then, when you have the deep state, a lot of times you're dealing with individuals who are psychopaths. And they're the easiest people in the world to manipulate because they cannot see both sides. All right. Now, Alexander Mercouris, what's going on in Ukraine? Here's a map. We have Luhansk, Donetsk. This is the Donbass area. We have Crimea down here, Odessa, Kherson. We have Nikolaev. We've got Izium, Soledad, Kramatorsk. We've got these small places, Bakhmut, Solidar, Pisky, and things going on. Okay. Now in Zaporozhye, about here, there's a big deal with Russia is actually inside this nuclear power plant. And Ukraine is saying that Russia, they come outside and chill the location where they're actually staying. Who believes that? It's Ukraine who is bombing the nuclear facility, nuclear power plant. All right. Now, so Zelensky, the actor puppet, who Gene Decode says is not human, is angry that the Ukraine military and the British military are taking responsibility and bragging about taking out the airbase in Crimea of Russia. And Zelensky is trying to push the story. No, it was sabotage. I really don't believe that at all. All right, now, military summary is coming out with losses for Ukraine. And we know that Russia has losses too. We're just not getting the numbers. Okay, so Ukraine losses, 28th. 100 soldiers, they lost 9 vehicles. The 56th, they lost 70% of their soldiers at a battle a few days ago at this location called Pisky. All right. So now, at that power plant I was telling you about at Zaporozhye, it's near Kherson and Nikolaev. The Ukraine military is moving their people out of these areas. What does that tell you? Something to happen? there. Okay. Military summary. On the 10th, these are like groups of the Ukraine military, 10th Brigade or 10th Mechanized. I just put down the numbers. They lost 170 soldiers and 20 vehicles. Earlier, they had 1,000 lost. That was due to rocket attack. And the 13th group, this 13th had been on the front line. And then they had like hundreds of soldiers killed. So then Ukraine military moved them north of Kiev. So here is Luhansk, Donetsk. Here's Kiev. So, and we know that the NATO guideline is if a group, a brigade or a battalion has lost 5% of their soldiers, that they need to be taken out and rest because it's traumatic. Okay, so that just happened in the last 2 or 3 weeks. And they did move them to Kiev, but now they're moving them back to the front line near Kramatorsk. And as soon as they got there, 70 soldiers were killed by Russia, and they took 30 vehicles. So that's going on. It appears that Ukraine, and we know the Ukraine military is being operated by the shadow U.S. military and the shadow NATO plus, and they don't appear to place any value on the lives of their soldiers or people. Okay, so in the Ukraine 56, yeah, they had at this location, Pisky, they had high losses. And also in the 54th, the 21st, the 66th, on August 11, lost 50% of their soldiers. The 57th, the 42nd, the 14th has lost 50% of their soldiers. And it appears that the Ukraine military has no or very little artillery. They have no tanks, and so they just have soldiers out here facing tanks and artillery in air, rockets from the air, armed with AK-47s. So that's what I'm saying. The Ukraine military doesn't appear to place value on the lives of their soldiers. Okay. And this is coming out on the front line. Ukraine is withdrawing their professional trained soldiers, and they're putting in civilians. Like if Ukraine military is in control of an area, they scoop up the civilians, train them a little bit, give them guns, and put them on the front line. And these civilians are surrendering and deserting. Of course. Okay. Scott Ritter, a Marine, retired military analyst. He's saying truthers in Ukraine are killed. Now, you try to tell the truth about anything, well. Now, Scott Ritter is putting this forth. It was the HIMARS that hit. That was a POW prison for the Azov. That was a couple of weeks ago, and that was in Luhansk. And we know now that the HIMARS are operated by the U.S. military. All right. And now, Scott Ritter's assessment is that Russia has plenty of logistics and can move forward in time and space. And he's bringing this out that at Bakhmut, I'll draw this for you. Here's Luhansk, Donetsk, Izium, Slovansk, Kramatorsk. Then they've got Bakhmut, Solidar. Okay, this Bakhmut. These are large areas that are, okay. So the Allied forces, they call it the Allied forces. This is Russia and the Luhansk People's Republic Militia, the Donetsk People's Republic Militia. But this also is the Wagner group is fighting. And this Wagner force is ex-military special forces. This is a private company that's working for the Russian government. Okay. And he's also saying in Solidar, they have the Luhansk People's Republic Militia, the 6th Cossack Regiment is fighting there. In Donetsk, right here, the Allied forces, and in Pisky, this little, it's a large town, trench fighting is occurring, and this is like hand-to-hand combat. You have a soldier a few feet from you, and that soldier is shooting at you, and you're shooting at them. Trench, face-to-face fighting. All right. And I would like to say again, a hot shooting war is barbaric, but sometimes necessary. Okay, Scott Ritter is coming out with this. In Zaporizhzhia, that's where that nuclear power plant. Russia on the outskirts of the town took out a battalion base of Ukraine. And this is the name of it. Okay. And in the night on August 11, this is when Ukraine, using HIMARS, and we know that's the U.S. military, plus the British intelligence are supplying targeting information. So they hit, on August 11 at night, they hit it's a hydroelectric plant. All right, so that's going on. Now, Smoothie 12, this is Andrei Martyanov. He's a retired Russian military analyst. Is giving this information. In Ukraine, there's a lot of desertions now, and the stories coming out is that the Ukraine soldiers are paying money to Ukraine civilians to help get them to a Russian area so they can surrender. And then they also join the civilian militias. So we have to believe these people, they may be some of the professional Ukraine soldiers, but it's highly likely they are the coerced civilians that Ukraine was trying to make fight on the front line. Okay. And Andrei Martyanov is putting a number to it. 7,000. So, that's going on. And he's saying the Ukraine losses is hundreds of thousands. So, All right, we need to be in prayer for Ukraine and the people there. We cannot, as American citizens, we've been blessed never to have had actual war in our streets as they had in Europe in World War II. Wow. Okay. So now we'll move on to sci-fi and Awakening Cosmic Reality. Alina Kopolnek is bringing this out that we have in our Space Force the ability to uncloak bases that are on Mars, the Moon, plus. So when you hear, someone say, "Oh, we don't have any bases off-world," that's not true. And we've had them for decades. Okay. Galactic Talk interviewed Jessica Ariel Marrocco, and she's associated with the ACIO, the Alien Contact Intel Organization. That's a division of the NSA, the U.S. government. Okay. And she's saying that due to the deep state, and they've been using CERN plus other ways to open portals and combine with the Earth electromagnetic shield being weakened, well then, a lot of ETs can come in. And one group that came in a few months ago came from Pluto, and they look like werewolves without fur. They're very hostile, and they attack humans and consume humans. So yeah, this ET threat is real. But it's good we have God on our side. Okay. A heads up comes from Mary Greeley. He's bringing out some new information about La Palma that I found surprising. Okay, I'll draw a map for you. Now, here's the U.S. East Coast. We have Africa. We have Spain. We have the Atlantic Ocean. We have La Palma. Well, actually, I think it's closer here to the coast. Okay. Now, we recall that was, 3 or 4 months ago when that was, I'm pretty sure La Palma is much closer to Africa. Down here. La Palma. All right. A volcano, and what I learned when I was going through our earth science major in the 90s was that La Palma, with a certain volcano, could lead to a tsunami that would be hundreds of feet tall and would travel across the Atlantic Ocean and take out the East Coast and travel inland about 20 miles. And the height of the tsunami, I think was 300 feet. And yeah, that's okay. So a few months ago, that was getting cranked up. And then we found out that the White Hats took out, it was in Norway. There was a system there that was being used to crank up this volcano. And there were some other things going on in the ocean. And I know in the fall of 2020, it was God who said to me, pay attention to the tectonic plates. The earth is heating up and the magma is going to be rising along these edges. And we have tectonic plates in this area. So we had a group of factors there. But at any rate, it was HAARP that was being used by the deep state to crank up La Palma. And the White Hats took it out. They had special forces and they went down in the ocean and actually cut the links for La Palma. Okay, so Mary Greeley is bringing this out now about La Palma. What's going on there? And this is good information. So in La Palma, they have 6 inches below the ground. They have high temperatures. They have carbon dioxide rising. They're putting in monitors. And they have virtually, you didn't see any people there. And they still have piles of ash everywhere. And, 4 inches below the ground, there's lava rising. And the temperature inside the ground is 1,000 degrees Celsius or 1,400 degrees Fahrenheit. So a heads up, what's going on in La Palma? So we'll have to keep our eyes on that for sure. Okay, and now we have Be Happy. Now, with this two-president situation, we had the late prophet Kim Clement gave a prophecy from the Lord in 2008. Be happy. God says, this is my nation. I will change things in my season. I will expose and reveal evil, and my nation will move with victory and honor and glory, says the Lord of hosts. And this had to do with 2 presidents. What will we do? Well, God is going to take care of it. So be happy. Okay, look ahead. Because we are seeing that things are on the move. Don't we see that? Look ahead. Okay, WION. This is a mainstream media outlet in India. It's talking about an election in Israel that's going on now. And Lapid is one of the people involved. Narrows the gap. And I know you're going to be surprised about who else is running. That's Netanyahu is running. And Lapid was able to narrow it because of the recent rocket attacks from Gaza. And I assure you, those attacks from Gaza, they're orchestrated from inside Israel by the deep state. Yeah. Okay. We have, this is from ShariRaye. Yeah, no, this is from Amanda Grace, a prophet of God. She's talking about July of 2020, Israel and the U.S. had to do with Obama and Netanyahu will rise and regain a position. I've heard different prophecies and predictions tying the rising of Netanyahu and President Trump. Okay. Now, Amanda Grace is saying this, that China will lull some type of agreement, I guess, with the United States. China will be a place of plagues and judgments. China is going to be shaken in the future, and the Chinese people are going to rise up. Yeah, I can see that happening under Chairman Z, part of the White Hats. Okay, ShariRaye. President Trump. So this is ShariRaye. So her information is he's going to complete 2024. Well, he's eligible to run in 2024. She's saying he's going to complete his current time, and so that election was in 2021 to go to 2024, and then he's eligible to run again in 2024 because there was unlawful interference in November of 2020. Okay. The FBI search was illegal. President Trump knew they were coming. The Navy SEALs had warned him, and he told them to stand down. He didn't want a bloodshed. Okay. Now, ShariRaye is saying when the FBI came to his home in Florida that he was traveling, and that they took 15 boxes of documents and some safes. And guess what? One of the first things that President Trump is going to do soon, is do away with the IRS, the FBI, the CIA. And Sherry reminds us, when the EBS is activated, she is going to receive a 72-hour notice. I would have to believe there was probably some other truthers, and definitely around the world, because with that EBS, we've found out it's going to involve 10 nations. So there would have to be coordination around the globe in terms of time zones. So it's all good. Okay, let's have a short prayer. First, we'll do a cleansing prayer modeled by Jean Decode. I remove permission to be in us, on us, around us, on earth, off-world, any dimension, any person, place, or thing not of God, any assemblage of fallen angels, AI, nanobot, and other forms of tech, any non-terrestrial species, spirit, thought form, operating system, genetic overlay, past, present, and future. And we say, get away from us. Okay, this is a prayer based on the King James Version of Ezekiel chapter 12, 13, 14. Break out, O Lord. Thus says the Lord, my words shall not be stayed, but shall perform their duty, their righteousness. I, God, will not be contained, restrained, nor will I, God, fail to be remembered in my land on earth. And the people, and we say the people, many forget you, Father. They defame you. They dismiss your living being. They call you a thing. And we, your people, say, Rise, O God, O Father, to the delight and astonishment of your people. Cloud our enemies with secret deception and the ability to plan, to execute, to strike. Yoke them now with weakness and fever in their brains. Let your throne come forth, Father. Let your people prevail over all of their enemies. So we, your people, may declare, see, God is on our side. And we thank you, Father, Son, Jesus, Dominica, Yeshua, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. And I say to my family and friends out there, remain steady and continue to pray. God is in charge and He is on the move. I love you, and I'll see you soon.